I'm just going to turn it over to you, Hank, for any introductions and anything else you need to give us before we jump in.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk here again. I think that if you want to have the complete background for this follow-on Q&A, it would be good to watch the video from the Lunch and Learn. I'm not going to cover down on everything I talked in that now, but brief background is grew up in doing outdoors activities, went to the Naval Academy, became a Marine officer, and through the Marine Corps had lots of different security type responsibilities, as well as ended up doing some finance, and finally ended up in cyberspace operations, which included offense and defense. And then through that last assignment, I started studying more broadly what risks were to our dependencies on the internet and everything that is connected via the internet. And I realized those were fairly broad, and we should be doing things collectively to mitigate those risks. I do want to mention at the beginning of this, and I think I have a disclaimer in the video also, but any views here that I express are my own. They don't reflect anything from the U.S. government or from any of the companies I work for or have previously worked for. It's just based on my own research and my own opinions.
Okay, so plan your recovery now, which includes the after action review, which some of the elements are check your ego at the door, be vulnerable, no blame game, focus on identifying and recommending, not necessarily ultimately a solution. And then the last thing I wrote down is the best way to self-insure yourself is through planning, which we talked about. Plan your recovery now, do an after action review, but after all that's over with, take all that information, all what you've learned, and go back through the process of incident response, crisis management, disaster recovery, business continuity of operations. So those are just, to me, one of the things I wanted to give people as a takeaway was what are some really simple things that you could do. And these are not necessarily simple. It takes work and it takes time, but I think spending time now planning your recovery, working through some after action reviews, even now, I think if you did one at week by week, you would probably learn a lot about what's happening. And then ultimately take all that data and work through those 4 plans: incident response, disaster recovery, continuity of operations, and crisis management. And people probably come on the backside a lot stronger. And the last 2 things I want to say before I wrap up and whatever else you have is, I think everybody should get a copy of Lights Out, and then pay attention for what we post on when Hank gets his stuff for Plan Bravo out there, because it'll be very helpful for people. So, do you have any?
Yeah, I hope the Plan Bravo is helpful, and if it's not, then I'd like that feedback also.
Yeah.
So I don't need to waste my time, or if I can shift in order to be more effective. I can speak personally and say that our family has been resilient through this thus far, not in any perfect way, but our planning had benefits, and we did not incur a lot of additional expense other than the pre-purchases that I mentioned. And the way we've broken it down is into some short manuals. So these will be like handbooks that hopefully are enough to get the point across without becoming a big project for anybody. And so if the first 2 manuals have traction, if we feel like they're helping others, then we'll continue to publish follow-on manuals, and that gives people to kind of pick and choose also what they may be interested in. Maybe they're interested in being prepared for more than a couple weeks, or maybe they're interested in some kind of specific consideration. Lots of people in this conversation want to bring up like firearms and things like that, and that's a whole nother realm if you're going to get into that. That shouldn't be addressed, on a couple of pages of a handbook.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's the long-term plan if it's helpful to other people. So
good.
Yeah, I definitely would appreciate people's feedback on Facebook or reaching out to me individually, whatever.
Well, we appreciate you. Any final thoughts or anything before I stop recording, before we wrap up?
No, I'm assuming that people are going to be listening to this in the middle of the pandemic. I wish everyone the best. I think that one of the biggest challenges in something like this is we don't have a shared sense of what normalcy is, and so that can cause friction between people or families or friends, and so we have to offer each other a lot of grace right now. And my personal position is since we don't know exactly what's happening around us, to take a conservative approach, to be the abundance of caution piece, that more than likely, if we look back on it and say, yeah, maybe we overreacted a little bit. My kid shouldn't have missed that birthday party or something like that. That's far better in my mind than dismissing it and missing the mark on the dismissal, and all of a sudden you became part of the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a tough and delicate balance, but it's the decision between maybe going a little overboard and being okay versus dismissing it and regretting, that I think you would regret the negative outcome of what could happen a lot more than maybe missing a thing or two over the next 4 to 6 weeks or so, or even the past few. I think we have a new baby, and it's certainly been a challenge to be mostly homebound through that, but I'd rather protect our children and our ultimate livelihood than not, and impose those risks. So those are good words. So.
Well, and there's certainly challenges here, but there's absolutely opportunities as well.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a chance, and there was a Wall Street Journal article on this yesterday or today, anytime we have the chance to push the reset button, that's an opportunity. And so I would encourage people, instead of just immersing yourself in entertainment, to lift your head up and take a breath and evaluate everything that's in your life, and use this time to make changes if you think that change would be healthy.